It's been made pretty clear this offseason that Scott Perry doesn't exactly view Malik Monk as part of the long-term plan here in Sacramento. But why is that? Malik has so much to offer this Sacramento Kings team. Plus, Adam Silver had some embarrassing comments today when he spoke to the media. We'll talk about it all right here on Locked On Kings.
You are Locked On Kings, your daily Sacramento Kings podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
And now, ladies and gentlemen, it is that time for another episode of Locked On Kings.
Hello and welcome into Locked On Kings, your podcast hub for Sacramento Kings coverage all off-season long. My name is Matt George. I have the privilege of being your host here. I'm a Sacramento sports anchor and reporter for ABC 10 News. Lots to get to on this podcast today. We're going to start and primarily focus on Malik Monk, why he's on the outs, even though he's still on the roster, and how he still is going to be a massively important part of any success that the Sacramento Kings have next season. Adam Silver spoke with members of the media today and had one thing to say in particular about fans who are concerned about being priced out over the amount of streaming services that now have exclusive games that they might not be able to watch. Adam's response to it was terrible, in my opinion. And earlier this week, our Locked On NBA Top 100 Players list dropped, and I haven't gotten the opportunity to react to it yet, so we'll look at where three Kings in particular fell on that list. So lots to get to on this show. Let's dive right in and start with Malik Monk. I think it's more than fair to say that over the last 3 seasons that Malik Monk has been here in Sacramento, he has been top 3 most important player on this roster, right? De'Aaron Fox, Domantas Sabonis, whatever order you want to do 1 and 2 there. You could make a great argument for either of those two being the best player. But Malik has firmly been that 3. Malik has firmly been in that spot. He is so essential and has been so essential to what the Sacramento Kings do. Now, there's not a massive gap between Malik at 3 and say, at like the Beam team year, at the beginning of the Beam team year, like Kevin Huerter was so unbelievably important as a shooter. Keegan Murray, so unbelievably important as a shooter that year. So you could put them in that 4 spot, right? Keon Ellis's emergence as an essential defender. We can make an argument that Keon Ellis will be the 6th man over Malik Monk coming off the bench this season, assuming both of them are still on the roster at the start of training camp. You can make an argument for Keegan Murray's defense and his rebounding being super important on this roster. But Malik has been at the center of what the Sacramento Kings have done right over the last 3 years. He should have won the 6th man of the year at least twice, right? He should have 100% won it 2 years ago when Naz Reid got it, even though Naz Reid started for a handful of games. The year before that, should have won 6th man of the year too. Regardless, he's been not just one of the best bench players, of course, in Sacramento, and not just an important piece to how Sacramento has succeeded. He's been one of the best players in that role, period, in the NBA over the last 3 years. Now, last season was such an anomaly year because, I feel bad for Malik. And I think I even asked Malik about this at his exit interview press conference, and he laughed about it. Like, the amount of role changes that Malik Monk went through last season alone, right? He starts the season in his typical role as the 6th man for Mike Brown coming off the bench, the same role that he's had for the 2 seasons before that. Then things are not going well, right? So the Kings move Malik Monk into the starting lineup. So he finally gets moved in as a starter. He's starting next to De'Aaron Fox, and short-term things are going well. When he first started, he was playing really well next to De'Aaron Fox. Well, when De'Aaron gets injured, and then ultimately De'Aaron gets traded, Malik Monk steps into the primary point guard role, and it's not his game, right? As much as he's been one of the best facilitators and ball handlers that the Sacramento Kings have had over the last 3 years, the true point guard position is different. And when De'Aaron's gone, and now all the defensive attention is on you, and they are making sure that you are uncomfortable, that you are getting harassed and hounded every time you cross half court as the primary ball handler. Things were just not as easy for Malik Monk, and it showed. He struggled. Then Malik gets hurt, comes back from his injury, ends the season back in sort of a bench role. So Malik, like the Kings, like the entire organization, is kind of bouncing all over the place. Last season was just chaos, period. So I have a hard time taking the last, let's say, 2/3 of last season and fully judging Malik Monk on that. Now, to be fair, or to be clear, I don't believe that that's what Scott Perry is doing. But Scott Perry came in and clearly had conversations with everybody on this roster, had conversations with everybody in the organization, the front office members that are gone, the front office members that he's kept, the coaching staff that he's brought in, Doug Christie, everybody. And he's evaluated who he views as part of his long-term future and who he doesn't. He's inherited this roster, with the exception of Dennis Schroeder, really. All of these players are not Scott Perry's players. Well, Nick Clifford and Maxime Reynaud, we'll put them in there too because Perry drafted them. Those three guys are Scott Perry's guys, the guys that he is responsible for bringing and putting on this roster at this point. Everybody else is inherited, and he has to look through this roster and decide, who do I want to keep? Who do I want to get rid of? Who fits my long-term vision? Who fits my short-term vision? Who can I get rid of? In not just a situation where the Kings have some contracts that are difficult to move under normal circumstances. They're also have been going through an offseason where everybody's scared to spend money because of the apron system. And it's been made pretty clear with how Malik Monk has been involved in trade rumors and trade talks really all summer long that Malik is not part of the plan. It doesn't seem like Scott Perry views Malik Monk as part of the future here. Now, we had a conversation earlier this offseason that part of that is because of Malik's contract. And you look at the money, Malik Monk is making $18 million, $18.5 million roughly next season. Then it goes up to 20 the following season. Then he has like a $21.5, $22 million player option the final year, which I believe he will exercise. He will pick up that option. I don't think he's ever going to get better money than that. So essentially you have 3 more years that you're paying Malik Monk, and every year that price tag goes up by around $2 million. Now, that's not nearly the worst contract in Sacramento. There's 3 contracts bigger than him. There's DeMar DeRozan and his $24.5 million, and then his partially guaranteed year next year. Well, DeMar DeRozan, it seems like, is part of the vision, at least short term. Scott Perry wants DeMar DeRozan here from all indications. Everything that I've been told, he likes DeMar. He wants DeMar here. Then there's Domantas Sabonis and Zach LaVine's massive contracts. And from what I've been told, Scott Perry also likes Domantas Sabonis. So it sounds like Domas was not in danger of going anywhere anyway, even with his contract. And then there's Zach LaVine, who we've heard comments from Perry in the past that he questions whether or not Zach LaVine can be a winning basketball player. But regardless, LaVine is making almost $50 million a year. And the Kings were quite literally the only team willing to trade for that contract, which they did in the De'Aaron Fox deal at the trade deadline last year. A move that I've been consistent in saying I don't think Scott Perry would have ever made that move. But again, he inherited this roster the way it is. So you can't move LaVine. You don't want to move Sabonis. You don't want to move DeMar. And you probably can't move Sabonis even if you wanted to. So the next contract in line is Malik Monk and his $18 million. Okay, that's the contract that I'm going to try and move then. Well, clearly you haven't been able to move it. But that does not mean that Scott Perry does not see value in Malik Monk. And I know for an absolute fact that Doug Christie sees a tremendous amount of value in Malik Monk because he absolutely should. Dennis Schroeder might be coming in here as the primary point guard, but you still need someone to handle the minutes and handle the basketball when Schroeder is out of the game. Schroeder's not going to play 48 minutes. And as much as maybe Scott Perry would like that to be Russell Westbrook, there clearly is no avenue to sign Russell Westbrook right now with the logjam in the backcourt and the little amount of money that the Sacramento Kings have. So as of right now, until Russell Westbrook is signed and on your roster, Malik Monk is that guy. It's not Devin Carter. Maybe it could be Nick Clifford, but we haven't seen anything yet, so we can't just go into next season with the confidence that Nick Clifford can handle those responsibilities. It's not Keon Ellis. And I guess Zach LaVine and DeMar DeRozan can kind of handle the basketball, but that's not their true position either, trying to force a round peg into a square hole, or however that saying goes. Like, it's Malik. Malik is that guy. Just like when De'Aaron Fox came out of the game over the last couple of seasons and Malik came in and became the primary facilitator. That is the same role that Malik has. And we've seen that he can succeed in that role. So I have no reason to believe that Doug Christie's system is going to be so drastically different that Malik Monk isn't going to naturally still be able to provide that. If you were to tell me that it's simply financial, that's why Malik Monk is not part of the long-term plan. Because Scott Perry feels like Malik is the easiest contract that he can move out of the top 4. Then I would say, okay, I hear that. I understand the business side of things. I also understand that there's not a lot of financial flexibility with this roster right now with the salary cap, and especially with the big contracts up at the top. Perry needs to find some sort of wiggle room, and Malik is his route to get that. If that is the sole reason for why the Kings are trying to get rid of Malik Monk, I understand it. I do believe there is an element of Perry viewing Malik's game as not a great fit for how the culture that the Kings want to establish. And maybe that'll become clear, because I've said that by the end of this season, by game 82, I should have a very clear idea and vision of what this new culture and identity is in the Sacramento that Doug Christie and Scott Perry are trying to establish. And I should know very clearly who fits that identity and who doesn't. And then this time next year, or a little less than 12 months from now, next offseason, Scott Perry will begin to really plug the players in and keep the players here that are part of his vision and get rid of the players that aren't. And maybe he'll do that even at the trade deadline this coming season. I don't know if Malik will fit that identity, and maybe because it's based off the defensive side of the floor. But if Malik Monk is not a part of the future because of how he plays on defense and his attitude towards practice, then I can make the same comment that half of this roster, if not more, will be in the same boat. This is an offensive roster. This is not a defensive roster. We know this. We've known this for 3 years. So is it just because Malik makes the most money out of these guys, or is the easiest contract to move out of all of these guys? That's the reason why he's so aggressively on the block? I don't know. I view Malik Monk as still an essential part of this Kings team. We can debate and we'll figure out if Malik is going to be the first guy off the bench or if Keon Ellis is going to be the first guy off the bench. It's good for Doug Christie to have both of those options. And it's great that Keon Ellis has even played his way into that conversation over the last few years. That's awesome. That's a wonderful asset to have. We also don't know how long Keon Ellis is going to be here in Sacramento, considering as of now, he's slated to be an unrestricted free agent next summer if the Kings don't work out a deal with him this spring. And who knows if he is even going to want that deal with how he feels about playing for only like $2.5 million or something next season. Malik Monk is still an essential part of the Sacramento Kings. I hope he's I hope he can play his way into fitting with the vision, because he's not that expensive. We see his value on the floor, and he's essential to what the Sacramento Kings have done right over the last few years. And I don't believe that the Kings are going to go completely away what they have done right over the last few years to find something else to do right. You have to have part of what worked 2-3 years ago as part of Doug Christie's vision going forward, at least if this is going to be part of your roster. And Malik Monk is a key cog in that. So I think Malik Monk is still extremely important to this Kings team and should be looked at that way by this entire front office and coaching staff. This episode of the Locked On Kings podcast is brought to you by 5-Hour Energy. It's time to fuel up and turn it up with 5-Hour Energy Transfusion. This grape, ginger, and lime flavored shot brings the iconic taste of a golf course favorite to a non-alcoholic boost. Perfect for sinking birdies or making great memories with friends. It's a hole-in-one for your energy game. Whether you're out on the course and just need a little extra push to power through your day, or just, hey, you're grinding at work and you hit that wall. 5-Hour Energy Transfusion delivers the clubhouse flavor that you love without ever leaving the green. Golf is all about good times with good people and good flavors. The grape, ginger, lime flavor of 5-Hour Energy Transfusion gives you the best parts of your clubhouse go-to without leaving the course or chasing down the bev cart. Now you can amp up the fun even more. Just buy, snap, and enter for a chance to win a dream golf trip for two to any golf tournament in the USA. You heard that right. Tee up that trip. Visit 5thehewin.com for full rules and entry. No purchase necessary. Excludes the Masters tournament. Ends October 31st, 2025. So today, NBA Commissioner Adam Silver is talking with the media after, I believe, the NBA Board of Directors meeting. One of the things that came out of this meeting is it's official, according to Shams, that they are making a statistical change that will mean if a player, let's say we're talking about Malik Monk. So let's say Malik Monk with a second left chucks the ball from over half court. Very low percentage chance of going in. Well, let's say on that particular game, he was 3 of 3 from three-point range. Well, now he's 3 of 4 from three-point range. It has a negative impact on the shooting percentage. Well, according to Shams, a change that's happening is that end of period heave will now be recorded as a missed field goal attempt for the team, but not for the player. Now, we could argue that is rewarding players who are, some people are saying, too cowardly or unwilling to impact their individual shooting percentage in order to help their team by shooting a low percentage shot. But for the most part, players, I mean, I've rarely seen a player fail to throw that ball up because of their shooting percentage. I can't remember the last time I've ever seen it happen, truth be told. I know it's happened before. I can't remember seeing it in Sacramento. I could not point to a time where it's like, no, he didn't take that shot because he didn't want to hurt his field goal percentage. I think this is a good change. I think it's a good, necessary change that doesn't punish the player for doing something that is just solely a Hail Mary to try and help a team at the end of a period, a shot that they would never take under any other circumstances. But that's not what I want to talk about from this Adam Silver press conference. Adam was asked about the rising cost to watch a season of NBA games as fans of a particular team. Like, games are either on cable or on a streaming service, right? Like games are everywhere. And some fans, rightfully so, are concerned about whether it's through Amazon or what be it, being priced out and unable to watch games or watch their team play all 82 of their games because of these new TV deals and these new subscription services and how difficult it is, to afford them all, especially in today's climate where the world's only getting more expensive and everybody has a streaming service at this point, and these streaming services just go up every single year in price. So Adam Silver was asked about that, and I thought his answer was embarrassing.
There's a huge amount of our content that people can essentially consume for free. I mean, this is very much a highlights-based sport, so, Instagram, TikTok, Twitter, you name it, any service, the New York Times for that matter, to the extent that your content is not behind a paid firewall. There's an enormous amount of content out there. YouTube, by another example, that is advertising-based that consumers can consume.
I think this is an incredibly tone-deaf answer by Commissioner Silver. Essentially, what he is saying is that, if you can't watch the games, well, there are other ways for you to see. You could just go and look up highlights on YouTube, or go and watch a reel on Instagram, or wait for a media member like Matt George or Brendan Nunez or someone in Sacramento to post a video, a clip of this big dunk that Malik Monk had, or this massive three that Zach LaVine made. You can't watch the game, but there are highlights out there for you to at least get a snippet of it. If you can't afford the service to watch the games that aren't free on television, then you have other ways to see it. Maybe not the whole game, but you have other ways to see it. And while I understand to some tiny little extent what he's saying, I get that I can watch a 20-minute highlight package of the game on YouTube 30 minutes after the game ends. That doesn't, one, it doesn't answer the question. And two, I think that's incredibly demeaning or insulting to your consumer. Why would you want to make your product harder to watch for the dedicated fan that doesn't give a you know what about 29 other teams, but wants to watch all 82 games of Sacramento Kings basketball, or Minnesota Timberwolves basketball, or San Antonio Spurs basketball, because that is the team they love. That is the team they support. And now there are 3 to 5 games or more a year that I can't watch because I don't have an Amazon Prime subscription, because I can't afford it, or I don't want to have to pay that much money to watch 5 games a year plus 100 others for other teams that I don't care about watching anyway. I understand capitalism. I understand supply and demand. I understand how business in the NBA is booming. And I am fortunate enough to have the ability to afford all of these streaming services. And I still hate having them all. I still wish I could cut half of them. But those families or fans that already feel like they're being priced out and pushed out hear the commissioner basically say, like, if you can't afford it, I don't care. Like, I don't care. If you can't afford it, don't worry. There'll be other free games that you can see. And if you can't see it, whatever, why don't you just go on YouTube and watch highlights and be content with that? You can't watch your team actually play live, but you can follow it by people tweeting, and you can see clips every now and then you can watch a 20-minute highlight package on YouTube or Instagram or something. I think that's incredibly insulting and tone deaf by the commissioner of the league. And this is coming from someone who I have the benefit of being able to watch whenever I want. I feel for people. I've talked to people that are just like, man, I'm not getting the subscription service. I can't afford to. Like, it just doesn't, it's not in my family's budget right now. And if your response to that, if you're listening, it's like, well, that sucks for you. Like, I get it if you feel that way. You're not the commissioner of the entire league who soft, backhandedly kind of said the same thing. The other part about this that I don't like is, after years with the implementation of this NBA Cup, after years of trying to make the regular season more important, this is Commissioner Silver basically saying, well, if you miss a game, that's okay. You don't have to watch the game anyway. You could just watch highlights. Like, you're completely undermining your own message. You've spent years trying to make the regular season more important, to prevent stars from sitting for load management, to make sure people are watching during the regular season and not just tuning in for the final month of the season and then the playoffs, because that's the only time that basketball matters. And now you're essentially telling people, well, if you can't afford to pay to watch these games that don't really matter anyway, you can just go and watch highlights on YouTube because they don't really matter anyway. You should be happy with that. I think this is an extremely, I don't know if damaging is the right word, but just a very strange and tone-deaf response and answer from Commissioner Silver. One of the things you're going to see around the Locked On Podcast Network that's new now is you're going to start to see Locked On Power Rankings and Locked On Top 100 lists and things of that nature. We are diving into having our network tell you and show you who the best teams are, instead of just reacting to who ESPN or Bleacher Report or all these other companies feel are the best. And that started with all the NBA hosts, myself included, coming together and putting together a top 100 players list. And that list earlier this week on Monday officially came out. We're not going to go through all 100 players. We'll look at the top 10, and then we'll look at where Domantas Sabonis, Zach LaVine, and DeMar DeRozan ended up on that list. But here is the top 10 for you, and you tell me if you agree or disagree. Number 1, Nikola Jokic. Number 2, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. 3, Giannis Antetokounmpo. 4, Luka Doncic. 5, Steph Curry. 6, Anthony Edwards. 7, Victor Wembanyama. 8, Jalen Brunson. 9, Donovan Mitchell. 10, Jason Tatum. I'll put up this graphic of the next 10 just so you can see that LeBron James is number 12. Pretty crazy to not see LeBron James as part of the top 10. Personally, at this point in LeBron's career, I'm okay with it. But looking at this top 10, the only problem that I really have, I don't think Victor Wembanyama deserves to be that high. 7 is, in my opinion, way too high for Victor Wembanyama. If he sneaks into the top 10, it should be at like 10. I'm okay with Steph Curry being in the top 5. I do believe he belongs there. Number 1 and number 2, I'm okay with Nikola Jokic, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. Personally, I flipped that. I put SGA number 1 and Jokic number 2 simply because SGA was the MVP. So I don't know how he isn't the best player in basketball, but that's okay. I understand Nikola Jokic is an absolute freak of nature. The rest of this top 10 really don't have too much of a problem with. I probably would put Jason Tatum ahead of both Donovan Mitchell and Jalen Brunson right now, but I understand he's hurt. We're not going to see Jason Tatum for a while. But let's talk about the Sacramento Kings. We have to go all the way to the 30s to find Domantas Sabonis. There he is, 32. One behind Bam Adebayo. Now, if you remember, I think it was last offseason, I went hard at some of our Locked On Medium podcast hosts who were hosting Locked On NBA, who were talking about Bam Adebayo versus Domantas Sabonis, and the idea that you'd take Sabonis over Bam, like they scoffed and laughed at, and I went at them for it because, with the exception of defense, I think Domantas Sabonis is a far better basketball player than Bam Adebayo. I still do think he is. Like, Bam is an incredible defender, but Sabonis, way better rebounder, way better passer, way better scorer. Added the 3-point shot, not at a super high volume, but at a over 40% clip. Like, I still think Domantas Sabonis is overall a more well-rounded player. Bam Adebayo is just the league's better as a defender. But I'll be honest with you, when I saw Bam at 31 and Sabonis at number 32, I don't feel as bad about it. Again, while I still feel Sabonis is a better player than Bam, based off of how last season went and how poorly, and I mean poorly, Sabonis played in that play-in game against Dallas, I have no problem with this. Now, you might be going, Matt, forget talking about Bam ahead of Sabonis. What about De'Aaron Fox one spot under Sabonis? That's interesting, isn't it? There's been a debate for a while about who really was the best player in Sacramento. Now, to me, it was De'Aaron Fox. He was the star. He was the leader. And we saw in the playoffs that De'Aaron Fox was the most important player. And regardless of how important other stats are, and they are important, like, this is still a scoring league and you need a star scorer, and De'Aaron Fox has been that guy and was that guy in Sacramento. De'Aaron Fox being one spot under Domantas Sabonis, I think, is very interesting. I personally put Fox higher than Sabonis by a couple of spots. But I think it's fitting that they're that close together. I do think it's fitting that they're that close together. I'm glad to see Sabonis ahead of Alperen Şengün. Like, Şengün is on the rise, and if we do this list next year, I wouldn't be surprised if Şengün is ahead of Sabonis, just based off of public image, because the Rockets are probably going to be very good again, and Şengün is a good part of that, a big part of that. But right now, Şengün is not as good of a player as Sabonis, so I'm good with that. And then, like, Zubac's another center, not as good as Domantas Sabonis. I think a lot of people are going to go, why is Kyrie all the way down at 40? Kyrie's still a very, very, very good basketball player. Of course, he's banged up right now, but I would definitely take Sabonis, Fox. I don't know if I'd take Jamal Murray over Kyrie Irving, but that's just me. So that's where Sabonis ended up. Then we have to go all the way to the 60s to find Zach LaVine and DeMar DeRozan. Zach LaVine at 66. DeMar DeRozan at 69. Nice. I guess I'm okay with LaVine being higher than DeRozan. I think DeRozan is a more reliable player than Zach LaVine, but LaVine has the more star potential. LaVine is also coming off of last season where he was unbelievable. Like, Zach LaVine should not be under Denny Advia. I'm okay with Dyson Daniels, I guess, being ahead of him because of how good, like, amazing Dyson Daniels is on defense. I'm taking Zach LaVine over Brandon Ingram. Maybe not for the Kings specifically because Brandon Ingram's taller, but I trust Zach LaVine as a basketball player far more than I trust Brandon Ingram right now. Fred VanVleet is not the same player that he was in Toronto, but still a very solid point guard. I would not like Alex Caruso. I'm surprised Alex Caruso was this low with how good he was in the playoffs at 68. But I probably would move Alex Caruso to the left side of the screen. I mean, let's look at the players, the 10 before that, right? You see Joel Embiid's dropped all the way down to 52, one spot ahead of Draymond Green. So I'm like looking at this list, how many of these guys would I put Zach LaVine ahead of? I'm putting Zach LaVine ahead of Austin Reeves. I'm sorry. I know Jared Allen is really important in his role with Cleveland, so I guess I'm okay with that. I guess Draymond Green is so important in Golden State, and he has the winning pedigree that I'm okay with him being ahead of both Zach LaVine. I think DeMar DeRozan and Draymond Green should be a lot closer than they are in this list. Lowry all the way down at 55 is pretty crazy to me too. But I mean, according to the Locked On NBA hosts, Domantas Sabonis by far is the best player out of the big three in Sacramento, and DeMar DeRozan is the last of those three. And yet DeMar is probably, Sabonis is reliable in terms of how he plays and the numbers that he puts up outside of scoring. DeMar DeRozan is probably going to be the most reliable scorer that the Sacramento Kings have this season. But that's where the three Kings ended up on this list. Nobody else made it. No Keegan Murray, no Keon Ellis, or anything like that. Here's the final 10. Number 100 was Toumani Camara. You can see some of these guys, like I would definitely take Keegan Murray over, but I don't blame our hosts for not watching enough Kings basketball to not put Keegan on this list. Maybe that'll change. Hopefully that changes by the end of this season. But that's our Locked On NBA Top 100. You can go on either social media or you can go on LockedOnNBA.com and you can see the full rankings up there. And if you want to share your thoughts on where those guys ended up, share your thoughts on Malik Monk, share your thoughts on Commissioner Silver's comments, feel free to do so at Matt George Sack on Twitter. Email me, mattgeorgesports@gmail.com, or leave your thoughts in the YouTube comment section down below. Appreciate your support as always. Can't wait to have you join me on the next episode of Locked On Kings. Until then, my name is Matt George. You've been listening to the Locked On Kings podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network.